So all the rest of the paper money in the world, they don't even have a fig leaf to cover their shame. They are just paper. But only the US dollar has some semblance of integrity because it was redeemable in gold at $35 an ounce. But that was just a fig leaf, because in 1971, when France, under the able and astute and wise leadership of Charles de Gaulle, General Charles de Gaulle, we commend him for his integrity, when he in 1966 challenged that bogus monetary system. Yes, and that is why up to this day France honors de Gaulle. There's never been a politician in France since de Gaulle. They're just schoolboys. The last one, of course, being the smallest schoolboy of all. Charles de Gaulle was the last leader that France ever had. And France did what no Muslim country ever did, except for Indonesia under Ahmad Sukarno. May Allah have mercy on his soul. Ahmad Sukarno. He took Indonesia out of the IMF. That's what he did. Nobody else dares to do that today. Hugo Chavez attempted. May Allah have mercy on the soul of Hugo Chavez. A worthy leader. I wish we had leaders like him in the world of Islam. Yes? But Hugo Chavez found it too difficult to take Venezuela out of the IMF. So all the paper money in the world, including the Pakistani rupee, they're just like that. They're just paper. They cannot be redeemed in gold. And Charles de Gaulle challenged this system, which was manifestly unfair, advantageous to the United States. You're making money out of nothing because you're printing paper and you don't have the gold to back the paper. That is what de Gaulle saw. The Vietnam War was a smoke screen to allow the United States to print and print and print paper. Yes, the Vietnam War was a smoke screen to allow the monetary system, the bogus monetary system, to flower. When de Gaulle challenged it, then they removed him from power. But the French government continued, and in 1971, the US decided it's too dangerous, redeeming US dollars for gold because the French were coming again and again. And so Bretton Woods collapsed in 1971. Bretton Woods collapsed in 1971. The US government announced from Camp David that although they were obliged under international law to redeem US dollars for gold at $35 an ounce, they are now they gave their word. They said, we don't have to keep our word. The United States of America said, we give our word, but we don't have to keep our word. Is that a Christian country? Do you have even a semblance of a link with Jesus? Nabi Isa alayhi salam, you give your word and you can't keep your word. Yeah? That's the foundation of the religious way of life. So what is this United States of America? It's a caricature of a religious state. It doesn't have any religion. When you give your word and you can't keep your word, you're following Satan. You are a satanic force, not a religious force. I know the American ambassador is going to be very uncomfortable when he hears these things from me, but Mr. Ambassador, these are facts. This is the truth. If you have not done your homework, I have done my homework, Mr. Ambassador. So they gave their word and they broke their word. So the United States US dollar is no longer redeemable in gold. And all the rest of the paper money now have the same status as the US dollar. They're all bogus. Yeah. What I did not say to you is that this was a transition. This was a temporary phase that they did in Bretton Woods because they wanted to hide the face of the snake. The actual snake was they wanted one currency for all of mankind. If you look at the travaux préparatoires of the conference, you will see where I think it was the British delegate John Maynard Keynes Scholars of international monetary economics will probably be able to confirm. I think it was John Maynard Keynes who he put the trial balloon that this is what we want to do. We want one currency for all of mankind because our goal is world government. And in order to rule the whole world, we need one currency. That is the heart of world government. To rule the whole world, you need one money. Are you listening to me? But they decided that's too dangerous. If we come out with one currency for all of mankind in 1944, people are going to rebel. People are going to open their eyes. And they're going to say, no, 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 we reject this. So they had to have an interim stage with many, many, many different currencies and wait for some time before they could do away with all these currencies and come with one currency for all of mankind, which is where we are now. One currency for all of mankind. And of course, it'll have to be digital money or electronic money. But what happened to the US dollar of 1971? September 1971 was when France came to the United States with, I think it was $3 billion US dollars and said, Uncle Sam, we want the gold. And Richard Nixon decided it's too dangerous. No, this bank will bust. If we give the money to France, somebody else is going to ask for it. We don't have the gold. So they reneged on their obligations under international law in 1971, and the US dollar then went into no man's land from 1971 to 1973. But then in 1973, they pulled something out of the bag. And that qualified as the most important event in history. In 1973, there was the Arab-Israeli war, and with usual deception, they were on both sides of the war, because on one side of the war, they were supporting Israel, and on the other side of the war, they had their schoolboy, the Soviet Union. They created him, they gave him food to eat, the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was a Zionist plant, and if the Russian doesn't understand that, I'm telling it to you. And the Soviet Union was on the side of the Arabs, but the Soviet Union was also in their Zionist camp. So they were on both sides of the war in 1973, and they took the war to a draw. But King Faisal, rahimahullah, of Saudi Arabia, had his heart in the right place, although he didn't have much brains, but he had his heart in the right place. And he was very angry about what happened in 1967. So King Faisal had warned that he was going to impose an oil boycott on the United States. And as soon as the war started in 1973, October 73, he imposed the oil boycott on the United States. And the Arab oil-producing countries supported him. And there were lines for oil, for buying gasoline in the United States 1 mile long. Motor cars lining up for gasoline. This was 1973, 74. And the Zionists knew what an oil boycott, a Saudi oil boycott would provoke. They knew it, and they wanted it. The price of oil at that time was $3 a barrel. That's right. And when the oil boycott was imposed, the Arab oil boycott was imposed, it eventually rose from $3 a barrel to $12 a barrel, an increase of 400%. And the US dollar fell by 400%, because by 1973, the US dollar had fallen from $35 an ounce in 71 to 40. Why is money falling in value? Did you ever ask that question? the trade union movement in Trinidad and Tobago? Have you ever asked that question? Why is money falling? Bogus money falls in value. Valid money does not fall in value. No, bogus money falls in value, then it's called inflation. They didn't teach you that subject, eh? So from $40 a barrel, $40 for 1 ounce of gold, 40 US, it fell to 160. It fell by 400%. And the Arab oil-producing countries suddenly found themselves richer, wealthier, with money flowing into their banks, into their coffers by 400%. It was in 1974 that the most important event in contemporary history occurred. And Saudi Arabia played the crucial role in that event. What is it? What was it? I now return to a hadith which is in Sahih Bukhari, and my methodology differs from the Salafi methodology, and I am not with any boxing gloves against the Salafi, and I pray that the Salafi will open his eyes and begin to understand, okay? So no boxing gloves. But before I turn to that hadith in Sahih Bukhari, which explains what happened in 1974, I have to turn to another event in the life of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam is in the city of Medina. And Medina is located in that part of the Arabian Peninsula which is called Hijaz. Hijaz. There is another part of the Arabian Peninsula to the east of Hijaz which is called Najd. And these two comprise the bulk of the Arabian Peninsula, Hijaz and Najd. Hijaz to the west, and in Hijaz is located Mecca and Medina, and Najd to the east. And it is in Najd that you have all the oil. So Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam speaks, and he praises our Sham and our Yemen. Allahumma barik lana fi Shamina, fi Shamina. Oh Allah, place blessings for us in our Sham, our Sham. And in our Yemen, if you don't like that, you could go and jump in the sea. Because he's saying it is our Sham. And he's saying it is our Yemen. And that's what you are doing today. You're waging war on Yemen and you're waging war on Sham. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. Waging war on innocent Yemen. Waging war on innocent Sham and sending millions of people as refugees. Destroying Yemen. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. What more do I have to say to you? Shame on you one more time. So he says, Allahumma barik lana fi Shamina wa Yemenina. Oh Allah, place blessings for us in our Sham, our Sham, our Sham. And in our Yemen, our Yemen, our Yemen, he identifies us with Yemen and he identifies us with Sham. And you waging war on Yemen and you waging war on Sham. Shame on you one more time. But then the people ask him, Oh Allah's Messenger, what about our Najd, our Najd, our Najd? Which Najd could he be talking about? Which Najd could they be talking about when they ask about our Najd? This is the difference between valid scholarship and bogus scholarship. This is what demarcates valid Islamic scholarship from bogus scholars of Islam. Bogus scholars of Islam. Bogus scholars of Islam. Because the valid Islamic scholarship, even a schoolboy will recognize that when they ask about our nudge, they're asking about the nudge which is next door to Hijaz, not some nudge which is in Chicago, in Timbuktu, or they say no in Iraq. Bogus scholars you are. Shame on you. That's right. Will people follow you with your bogus scholarship, or will they follow us? You think they have peanuts in their heads to accept this bogus nonsense? That our nudge has to be in Iraq? Or our nudge is in Timbuktu or in Chicago? No. Even an elementary scholarship, even schoolboys would know when they spoke about our nudge, they're talking about nudge which is next door to Hijaz. Our nudge. What did he reply? He was silent. And then they repeated the question, O Messenger of Allah, what about our nudge, meaning nudge which is next door? Not like some donkeys declare nudge in Iraq. Then he said, pointing to nudge, which is next door, not pointing to Chicago or Timbuktu or Iraq, pointing to nudge which is next door to Hijaz. He said about nudge, that from nudge there will be fitna, that which will be tests and trials. And the biggest trial of all that come from nudge is this monetary system. Fitna and earthquakes. And he pointed to nudge and he says, Qarnu Shaitan. The age or the epoch or the people of Satan are coming from nudge. Those were his words. And the Saudi leadership, the Saudi Wahhabi leadership, you don't like the name Wahhabi, you don't like my using the name Wahhabi, go find somebody else to listen, leave me alone. They came from Najd. That's where they came from. The ones who control power in Saudi Arabia today, they came from Najd. Everybody knows that. So having explained this hadith, and pointing to the role, the sinister role of those who control power in Saudi Arabia, we now turn to a hadith in Sahih Bukhari, which explains what happened in 1974. The Salafi methodology, and I am not with any boxing gloves, I'm not disrespecting the Salafi, no, I'm talking scholarly work. The Salafi methodology is that if, and they're very cautious because of this, that if there is a verse of the Quran or there is a hadith which has not been interpreted, ta'wil, we're talking not about tafsir, we're talking about ta'wil, interpretation. Tafsir is explanation, ta'wil is interpretation. And it has not been interpreted by Allah and His Messenger and by the Aslaf, the early Muslims. Then they say, no one has the authority to interpret. None. So if there is a hadith that Dajjal is going to come on a donkey, and the donkey will fly as fast as the clouds, and the donkey will have his wings stretched out wide, a donkey with wings, a donkey with wings, and a donkey flying as fast as the clouds. Since this is a hadith, since this is a prophecy of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ concerning Dajjal, and since it has not been interpreted, the Salafi insist that they must wait for the flying donkey. The flying donkey. Well, I have here in my studio, I have my visitor from Egypt, and he just came to Trinidad on that flying donkey. Oh yes. We have a different methodology. We say that this is religious symbolism, and we say that we have the right to seek to interpret religious symbolism, but when we offer an interpretation, we always say, Allahu Alam, Allah knows best. We can be right, we can be wrong, but we have the right to seek to interpret, to understand. So we say the flying donkey is the aircraft. And Dajjal will master the skies because of the aircraft. And wars will be waged now on who has power to control the sky, not the sea anymore, the sky. That is Dajjal's power, the sky. The drones, the satellites and so on. And so, the hadith is in Sahih Bukhari, which explains what happened in 1974. He said that the river Euphrates, which is in Iraq, will uncover a mountain of gold. And people will fight for that gold. And 99 out of every 100 who fight for that gold will be killed. And each one will say, I am the one who will survive. So this will be an uncertain war. No one will be able to enter that war with certainty that they will be victorious. What a war. It will be a unique war in history, like no other war ever before in history, which kills 99% of all combatants. But he said that the Muslims, the believers, must not touch that goal. A war which kills 99% of all combatants has to qualify as the Great War. The Christian eschatology refers to it as Armageddon. In Islam, we know of it as the malhamah. And in order for us to be firmly grounded in this war, we go first to the Quran and then to the Hadith. Is there any reference to this war in the Quran? Yes, there are. We want to turn to only one verse of the Quran, only one at this time. There are others.